Okay guys, continuing our series of videos. As you remember, we just installed ADK on our SCCM machine. We installed it with the following features. We installed the deployment tools. We also installed WinPE, Imagine and Configuration Designer, and the user state migration tool. Now, the next step, it's gonna be to our next step is going to be to install our SQL Server. The SQL Server is going to have these features, and we're also going to install the WSUS. All right, we're going to go head over here to our SCCM machine. As you know, as you can see, I'm connected to my SCCM machine. If you are using Hyper-V Manager, this will be the time to insert the SQL Server ISO into this computer. As I mentioned before, I already did this and I have my SQL Server over here. Once it's inserted into your machine, just go ahead and browse to this to the folder, to the ISO, and click on the setup, and let's roll. This is gonna take a couple of seconds, and once the SQL Server installation pops up, and you can go ahead and read all through it. But we're gonna go ahead directly to the installation. We're gonna set up a new server standalone. All right. We can close this out as well. As you see, I'm using SQL Server 2016. This is also a technical preview. This is not out for development yet. This is just an evaluation. All right. Product key, evaluation key. That's perfectly fine. Let me blow this up for a second. We're gonna accept the license. Is gonna run a pre-check just to make sure that everything is working perfectly. Microsoft update. Microsoft update give us the option to check if there's any update, and is actually recommended, I would say, if not required, to always maintain your SQL Server up to date. Okay, I'm gonna click next. Did I click next? We're gonna go ahead and click next. It's gonna do a scan to make sure that I'm running the most up-to-date SQL Server version. Once that is completed, it's gonna do another check, and everything should be good. Everything, all of the tests has passed, except for the very last one, which is a warning. Warning will not prevent us from installing it. It's just giving us a little warning about the firewall rules. The firewall rules that took we already fixed at the beginning. If you already did that, then don't worry about this. This is just there for you to be aware of. All right, so we're gonna click OK. I'm gonna go through this installation on default servers, default instance of the SQL Server. If you by any chance need to change any of the values over here, you can go ahead. But in my situation, or for lab purposes, we're just gonna use the default instance. We're gonna install SQL Server Future installation. And over here is the feature selection, which I have described over here. We have database service engine service, reporting service native, and management tools complete. All right. We have database engine service. We have reporting service native. And once I select this management tool complete, there's also a select automatically management tool basic. That's completely okay. Those are the requirements, the prereqs for installing the necessary features on SQL Server for the SCCM to run perfectly. Okay, so we're gonna go click next. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna go with the default instance. If by any chance you need to change these values, go ahead. Server configurations. Okay, over here, this is what I like to do. These are the different roles that the SQL Server is going to have. And for these roles, we need an account to be able to manage those, and that's the SCCN admin account that we created before. All right, so we're just going to go browse, and we're going to go SCCM is going to find automatically the SCCN admin account. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this. And I'm gonna use tab to move around. Okay, I'm gonna use tab to go to the password. Gonna type my password and change this to automatic. Gonna tap again, and we're gonna paste over here SCCN admin account, my password again, and one more time. And continue to move with my tab. And the last thing I'm gonna change is everything over here. Alright, all the startup types to automatic, all my passwords, and the SCCN admin account. The last one you're not gonna be able to change it. Uh, don't worry too much if you think you type the password incorrectly, because this is gonna do a check against the domain controller, and it's not gonna let you proceed unless you actually type the right password. Okay, so go ahead and click next. Database engine configuration, we're gonna add the current user administrator, and we are also going to add the SCCN admin. In reality, uh, we just need the SCCN admin. I like to do the administrator. Again, that's just preferences. Right? Preferences. I'm going to click this. We're going to install and configure, and it's going to tell us that it's ready to install. This is all the things that is going to be installing. This is also going to take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to click on install. I'm gonna pause this video and come back to you guys in a few minutes when this is done, okay? Thank you. And that is it, guys. I want to say it took about 10, maybe 15 minutes to complete this. It should take a little bit less on your computer. Again, I'm recording full screen and HD, so uh, my machine, even though it's a DC machine, it takes its toll. Recording takes its toll. So as you can see, everything was completed success. Everything succeeded. Everything's complete. And once everything's complete, just go ahead and close it. And that was it for our SQL Server. SQL Server, for some reason, for some inexplicable reason, Microsoft has allowed the SQL Server to use as much memory as it desires, and this is actually kind of cool. This is actually kind of cool. You could see all the recent recently added. Anyway, for some inexplicable reason, Microsoft has allowed the SQL Server to use as much memory as it desires. So if your Hyper-V server has 16 gigabytes of memory, trust me, SQL Server will use 16 gigabytes of memory. If your server has 32 or 56 or whatever kind of memory it has, SQL Server will use as much memory as it needs. Now, we cannot allow that to happen. So for that, we're gonna go over here to Microsoft SQL Server. This is a little bit different than the previous versions because this is using a kind of Windows 10 kind of menu. So right over here under SQL Server 2016, we're gonna find the SQL Server Management Studio. We're gonna open up the Management Studio. This should take a second. It's talking to the server, to the databases. And once the SQL Server Management Studio opens up, we're gonna click connect to the SCCM, which is our only server. We're gonna go ahead and connect. This is very, very tricky, so be careful with this and make sure that you are doing exactly what is discussed over here. You don't touch anything else because whatever you do over here is gonna affect the entire SQL servers. So it's very, very important that you take very uh, cautious, that you are very cautious in this, right? We're gonna go ahead over here. We're gonna select our server. We're gonna right click it and we're gonna go to properties. Everything, every option over here should be as we need it, as we want it, except for the memory that we just discussed. As you can see, the minimum memory is in 0 and look at the maximum server memory. So if your machine has 2,400 and so many megabytes of memory, trust me, you will use it. My machine is kind of decent, so I'm just gonna give it 4096, which is 4 gigabytes of memory. And the same thing over here, 4096 for uh, minimum and maximum of 4 gigabytes. The SQL Server from now on will not exceed the 4 gigabytes of memory, okay? This is gonna bring an issue when installing the SCCM. It's not gonna be a huge issue. It's just gonna be a warning. But the SCCM requires at least 8 gigabytes. But again, this is not gonna be a big issue. It's just gonna be a warning. Alright, so 4 gigabytes of memory for the SQL Server. Once we click OK, everything else should be good. We're gonna go ahead and close this out. Now, to finish up over here, we just adjusted the SQL Server memory. Just to finish up over here, we're gonna go ahead and install the WSUS. WSUS, for those of you who have not gotten to that part, is software Windows Server Update Services, I think. So this server is gonna be deploying updates to all the others. I Uh, Server Manager can do it. Windows Server can do it. The thing is that once we start the SCCM, the SCCM is gonna take over that role. The SCCM is gonna be the one controlling. But in order to do that, the WSUS has to be installed and to a point configured before the SCCM can take over. All right, so we're gonna wait for this. We're gonna go ahead and install. We're gonna add roles and features. I'm gonna click next. SCCM machine, and we're gonna scroll over here to Windows Server Update Services. I was right, and all the necessary features. Okay, click next, next. over here in this, okay, we're gonna uncheck this and we're gonna check this. The reason why this is a local database, we're gonna tell the WSUS to create a SQL Server database. Okay, we're gonna click next. Over here, let's go back over here to our C drive and let's create a folder. WSUS goes online and download updates, and those updates are gonna be stored in a folder that we're gonna call WSUS downloads. Right? We're gonna copy this. You can call it whatever you want. For lack of a better name, I'm just gonna put CWSUS downloads. Okay. WSUS is gonna pull the updates that you specify from the server, from Microsoft server. So it's gonna download, it's gonna save them, and then it's gonna deploy them to the other machines. All right. After that, we're gonna check the connectivity. SCCM that I write.com. Everything is successfully. We're gonna click next and install. This should take just a second. It's a very simple installation. Like I said, it's a very simple installation. Once it's completed, 99% of the walkthroughs or 90% of the people online, if you Google them, they're gonna tell you not to launch the post installation task. Without the post installation task, we have not done anything on the WSUS. We do have to launch the post installation. It's gonna take a couple of minutes to complete, but once that's done, it's gonna create a database in the SQL Server, right? So we're gonna click this post installation, and then we're gonna close this over here. The post installation is running in the background. You can see it over here. We're gonna pause this video and we're gonna come back in a couple of minutes when it's done. And we are back. As you can see, the configuration is required, although the installation was succeeded. All right, just to prove this point, gonna close this out, and we're gonna go ahead and go back to our SQL Server Management Studio 2016 Management Studio. Again, we're gonna connect to the server. We're gonna connect to our server, and we're gonna find the WSUS database that we just created. All right, this is WSUSDB. This is the database used by the WSUS. All right. Once you see that in here, it's a go. It's a green light for everything else. All right. This database is the one that Microsoft SCCM uses to pull out the information about the updates and everything. All right. So once you see that database is there, it's fine. All right. So just to recap, we installed the SQL Server with these features. We adjusted the memory of the SQL Server through SQL Server Management Studio, and then we installed our WSUS and partially completed the installation. Okay. Again, the SCCM will take over the WSUS functions once it's installed. All right. So this is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching.